listening to Unravel with Natalie Denise.
Hey guys, what's going on? What is up? Happy Friday to all of you. Okay, my contacts were feeling a little dry. Had to just rip them all out. So you guys get glasses tonight. All right, you get the studious Natalie look. I am so sorry about yesterday. I missed a podcast. This documentary is coming out, and I'm planning on it coming out within next week or the week afterwards. It's going to be the first part of the Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell deaths. It'll be split up into 3 series. You guys are you're gonna want to stay tuned to nataliedenise.com. That is where I will be publishing this documentary, nataliedenise.com. You're not going to be able to miss it because I'm going to make a big deal about it on my website. I'm so excited. It is finally being birthed. This long-awaited documentary. It is coming, and it is coming within weeks. So all that to say that yesterday I was working on production of the documentary, and it's coming together and it's looking real nice. So woo, next week. I'm so excited. So with that being said, what's up, chat? I see Declizer, Keem. What's up, Keem? Thank you so much for modding for me once again. You're always so faithful. I really appreciate you. We got Hot Chicks, Trap N, Andy G, Sunny and Rob, Sandra. What up? Okay, so you guys heard it here first. That's the perk of listening in on the podcast. The Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell documentary coming out either next week or the week afterwards. It's set, okay? All right, so let's get to some of the exploitation headlines. There's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dig into what we have today. This one is really, really crazy here. This is actually a re-exploitation. It's a re-exploitation case once again, where the system, they rescue the children and then they get placed in another bad situation, unfortunately. So here it is, child welfare boss. So if you guys don't know, there were foster parents that were they were supposed to foster over these children that were, here we go, let me actually get the initial story here, that were actually rescued from a horror house, and they were abused severely. Let me just get this here. And of course they were taken away once there was a raid there in 2018. Somehow down the line, here we go, let me get this story right here. Somewhere down the line, they got placed in this foster home. Foster father, this is coming from Daily Mail, responsible for caring for 5 siblings, rescued from Turpin family house of horrors, is charged with molesting 2 of the sisters more than 50 times and torturing the others along with his wife and daughter. 5 children rescued from the Turpin house of horrors were placed in foster home run by an alleged pedophile who then went on to molest 2 of them. Foster dad Marcelino Olguin has been charged with 7 counts of committing a lewd and lascivious act on a child and 6 of torture. His reign of terror was said to have been aided and abetted by his wife Rosa, 58, and daughter Lenis, 37, who have both been hit with multiple child abuse charges, one of the witness intimidation, and another fraud. According to the charging document seen by dailymail.com, Marcelino, targeted 2 of the girls, one of whom was under 14 at the time, for sexual touching on their buttocks and upper thighs more than 50 times. He also told them that they were sexy, recommended that they don't wear undershirts, and that they had beautiful skin. Forcibly kissed them and pulled a minor on top of him. Investigator Thomas Salisbury wrote in an affidavit supporting the charges. Approached by dailymail.com and asked if he was a pedophile and whether he regretted his mistreatment of the Turpin children, Marcelino said, "F you," before hiding in his garage. And this is Marcelino here. Take a good look. I apologize for those that are listening on audio podcast. You won't be able to see this. You're just going to have to look this story up. It is his name is Marcelino Olguin. And unfortunately, these are the children taken from this home. The Turpin family made headlines in 2018 after 13 siblings were rescued from their parents' house of horrors in Paris, where they were forced to live under horrific abusive conditions. Soon after the children were found, 5 of the siblings were placed in a foster care at Olguin's 5-bedroom home in April of 2018. It's actually a nice home, right? Like, this is what we're looking at here. Let me just describe it for the audio podcast listeners. You're looking at like a really well-kept stucco 5-bedroom home. It looks like it's like a 3-car garage. I mentioned the stucco build, the red Spanish style shingles, palm trees everywhere. It's a really nice home. So you would never, like, you would pass by, you wouldn't think that this is another house of horrors. The story of the Turpin Children's Rescue from their abusive parents, David and Louise Turpin, now 60 and 53, made global headlines in January of 2018. One daughter escaped from the house and managed to dial 911. The children were aged 2 to 29. The younger ones were placed in foster care. For 5 of them, they meant going from the frying pan into the fire, where they were fostered by the Olguins, according to the court documents. The Olguins allegedly forced the children to take part in confession of circle talk, where they were made to admit their past siblings' abuses, which their biological parents forced them to do. So that's like a psychological abuse right there, right? So this is a form because it did already mention some some sexual exploitation that was possibly going on. In fact, it was, according to the affidavit, it was going on. But this right here, for them to mentally break them down, this is called the breaking process. So this is a process where they are breaking their psyche down, where they're making them feel vulnerable, where they feel forced, where they feel intimidated. And, this is it's a form of the grooming process. It's like a component, but it's a more, I know all of the components of grooming are dark, but this is one of the darker pieces, right? So this is a form of breaking them down, making them confess like really hard truths that came from their hard past of abuse. One of the male Turpin children was singled out for extra abuse and was repeatedly imprisoned in his bedroom, cussed at, demeaned, and separated from his sisters. The Olguins also intentionally ruined his media devices, Salisbury wrote. All 5 were also threatened with never seeing their older siblings again if they didn't comply with the Olguins' wishes. The Olguins had, which by the way are their foster parents once again, the Olguins had a total of 9 foster children. They allegedly gave a 5-year-old girl who is not one of the Turpins sleeping pills, then forced her to stand, ringing a bell in her ear and spraying water in her face so she would not fall asleep. This is sadistic. This was all while repeating the revenge phrase, "You don't sleep, you don't let us sleep, we're not going to let you sleep," investigator Salisbury wrote. The little girl collapsed and fell hard on the tile floor, he added. This is, absolutely horrendous. I couldn't imagine the hell that these children went through. There's more. They also locked the girl identified as victim number 1 in her room for 9 hours a day and failed to change her diaper, Salisbury wrote. They frightened victim 1 by telling her spiders were in the bathroom. They held her in the dark, noisy, scary bathroom, which contained a large decorative spider at one point. Despite victim 1's crying panics, pleas to being let out, they beat victim 1 with sandals. Added Salisbury choked her, threw her, and knocked her front tooth out by throwing her down several steps. Both Marcelino and Rosa are certified foster carers who were approved to take the Turpin children by the Riverside County Children's Services Division. They live in Paris. The name Riverside County, California town where the Turpins had shared a home with their biological parents. Both Turpin parents are serving life sentences after being found guilty of systematically abusing their 13 children by beating and starving them, chaining them to the wall as punishment, and allowing them just one shower a year. But for the younger siblings, the nightmare started all over again. Just months after they were freed, they were placed with the Olguins in April of 2018, who then lived in a 5-bedroom home 9 miles from the Paris home and the children shared with their parents. Lenny Salisbury, who is one of the legal professionals here, said that Lenny's Olguin, which is I think I don't know if it's a daughter or son, but that's her child, the foster parent's child, scratched the top of one girl's hand, and then she was holding a metal coin, moved her hand close, and an electrical outlet saying, "You want to get shocked?" This is a purely sadistic, demonic family, yo. How do you even learn these things to be this evil towards children, especially knowing where these children came from? The Olguins always also encouraged 2 of their foster children to fight each other, the court papers allege, calling them a filthy A word and an M word, MF word, while another was told that she would end up as a white piece of, S word on the curb like her biological mother. They also accused of physically abusing the same 2 children. Rosa is said to have dragged one of them by her hair, which resulted in her hair being pulled out. A neighbor who asked not to be named told DailyMail.com that Marcelino and Rosa were often seen with their foster children until March 2021, when cops arrived at the home and arrested them. The Olguins sold their home for $500,000 the following month and moved to the property next door, where they have lived since being released on bond. All 3 are set and arraigned next Monday, with Marcelino facing a life sentence if he is found guilty. Riverside County has hired an external law firm to investigate the treatment of the Turpin children after it emerged last year that the adult Turpins had been largely left to fend for themselves and were unable to access cash raised for their care. This is absolutely heart-wrenching. Absolutely heart-wrenching. So I gave you guys enough context to understand what was going on in this foster care home. Now let's take a look at because you guys know that there is a system behind this, right? This is a system that has been fractured. It has been broken. It allows this to happen over and over and over again. And this is just another example. I mean, we see examples in Texas, right? Recently with the Bastrop location, where DFPS, they failed to notify the state about the abuses that were going on in the safe house in Bastrop, Texas, right? That's still ongoing. This is just another case. And look, this is coming from California, where the Gabriel, I forget what his last name is, but his name was Gabriel. He was a little boy who was severely abused, and he was failed by the system over and over again until he met his final fatality due to abuse. So this is the child welfare boss who sent 5 children, rescued the Turpin children, to live with an alleged pedophile as a foster parent that are charged with molesting 2 of the sisters and torturing the others. So we read about the torture, but how did they know? I mean, how is he a pedophile? Like, did they know this before? Like, was this part of his history? These are just initial questions. I don't know these things, but how was he able to receive children? So this is Charity Douglas. She has run Riverside County Children's Services Division since September of 2018, when her predecessor was forced out over an abuse case that saw a 13-year-old girl repeatedly raped and left pregnant by her mother's boyfriend. Douglas, who worked for, that's Charity Douglas, who worked for Riverside County since 2013 and earns a handsome $214,765 salary. That's almost $250,000. Not quite a quarter, but it's almost $250,000. Is now facing questions after DailyMail.com revealed that Turpin children were left in the care of Marcelino Olguin, who has been charged with the sexual abuse of 2 of them and physically and mentally torturing all 5 of them. Continued on, we read about that. They have pleaded not guilty when they appeared in court in Riverside, California on Friday. The judge is set to next hearing for June 6th. Marcelino was freed. That's right. This man is free on your Californian streets, guys, on a $200,000 bond. That means he got out for $20,000, while the two women were each on a $50,000 bond, which means they got out for $5,000. So yeah, these child abusers are out on the streets. You're in California, these especially if you're in the Riverside area, these child abusers are out in the streets tonight. According to court papers, the family fostered 4 other children as well as the Turpins. One, a 5-year-old girl that was regularly left in soiled clothing and forced to stand for hours on end, charging documents say. Asked to comment on the case, the spokesman for the Riverside Department of Public and Social Services said, neither DPSS or Charity Douglas are commenting, as an independent investigation by the Larson firm is ongoing. That investigation into the county's handling of the Turpin case is headed by retired Judge Stephen Larson. It was due to report on the by the end of March, but that date has now been pushed back to May 31st. A colleague of Larson's has complained that his work has been hampered by the lack of access to records. DailyMail.com revealed exclusively on Thursday that Olguin allegedly touched 2 of the Turpin girls, one of whom was under 14 at the time. He told them they were sexy and they recommended that they not wear undershirts and that they had beautiful skin, forcibly kissed them and pulled a minor on top of him. Now that that's revealed, DailyMail.com can disclose that Douglas's beleaguered Children's Services Division is currently being sued over another case that saw a baby boy savagely beaten and left with serious head injuries after a social worker sent him back to his abusive mother. I mean, this is again Gabriel. I wish I could remember his last name. He's a Hispanic boy that died in Los Angeles. This was a very notorious case. If you guys have Netflix, it's actually on Netflix. It was like the case of Gabriel something. And I apologize. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just can't remember his last name. But this is a very significant documentary that overviews the failure of CPS, Child Protective Services, how they kept giving them back to the abusive mother. It's the same thing here. How do you have the heart? You see this stuff and you think, okay, yeah, just go back to the same place where you got abused. Like, this is unacceptable. Named in court papers as Demetrius L., the complaint says social workers had investigated his mother, Lonnie Carranza, 12 times over the abuse of her 3 older children in 5 years before his birth, but allowed the baby to live with her. Less than 2 months after he was born, in April of 2019, Demetrius was rushed to the hospital with seizures and vomiting. So this is the same agency that allowed the Turpin children to be placed in this home. So with that being said, there is a lot of criticism to be said about, this system. I wanted to give you guys extensively. It's not just about sexual exploitation, but the attached abuse to it. It could be just physical, sadistic abuse, right? Still exploiting children for that matter. This is all exploitation, not just sexual. When it's children and these abusers and these sick people, they utilize that for their entertainment, right? And so this is another form of exploitation, just not in a way. Now, it did mention that he did sexually exploit 2 of them, but this is a lot. Man, I mean, that's a big opener for tonight's podcast, but again, this is just it's insane. All right, the next one coming from People Magazine. Yes, People Magazine. A man charged with child sexual assault targeted single moms on dating apps to get close to their kids, police say. This is in Texas. This is the man here. So take a good look at his picture. Harley, Willis, Texas. So this is a dating app. According to charging affidavits obtained by click2houston.com, cops first learned of Jimenez after a 17-year-old girl came forward and claimed that he sexually assaulted her when she was 13. The girl, who is the daughter of Jimenez's ex-girlfriend, told school counselors and later police that Jimenez was drunk 4 years ago when he pinned her to a bed and raped her. Police allege that Jimenez corroborated much of the girl's account, but denied the sexual assault. During the course of the investigation into the alleged sexual assault, police questioned Jimenez during their interview. He allegedly admitted to using the dating apps to target single moms. People confirms that Jimenez was already on probation in Galveston County for online solicitation of a minor. He is married. So again, one of those short stories, right? But nonetheless, it does give us a lot of detail. Well, it doesn't give us extensive detail, but it's enough for us to know that just another one is out there exploiting children. Oh, this next one coming from Breitbart. And this is a Texas border type of issue. And this is happening a lot more than we can suspect. A lot more. So in Texas, police bust a sex offender allegedly smuggling migrant children. A child, I'm sorry, not children, one child. Sheriff deputies in Zavala County, Texas, found a 9-year-old migrant girl being smuggled during a routine traffic stop near La Prairie. The deputy arrested the driver of the vehicle, who was later identified as a registered sex offender. The child was in the back of the seat of the vehicle and unrelated to the suspect. The incident unfolded on March 4th at approximately 5 a.m. The driver, a U.S. citizen, will be charged with smuggling of persons, second-degree felony under the Texas Penal Code. The child was turned over to the Border Patrol for processing and will ultimately be transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services. What did we just learn about the system? What did we just learn about the system, right? It's frustrating, right? It is frustrating because how is it? It's a whole cycle. It's a cycle. Anyway, HHS will work to identify the child and locate relatives or sponsors in the sponsors. That's a big buzzword right there. Sponsors, right? We don't know who these sponsors are. We don't know if they're vetted. But anyway, this is what HHS is doing. They're trying to find relatives or sponsors in the United States that will care for the child. Incidents involving the suspected human smuggling of unaccompanied migrant children have become commonplace in recent months. Most alarming is the involvement of smugglers with prior sex offense convictions. In one recent incident, Rio Grande Valley Sector Border Patrol agents arrested a convicted sex offender traveling with a 15-year-old unaccompanied minor on March 6. The migrant child was apprehended by Brownsville Station Border Patrol agents along with an adult Mexican national. In that case, the man's criminal history included charges of burglary of a habitation intended for sex and sexual assault, according to the authorities. The 28-year-old was sentenced to 180 days confinement and 10 years of probation for his previous offense. During the first 4 months of fiscal year 2022, more than 47,000 unaccompanied migrant children have been apprehended along the southwest border. This total represents 137% increase when it compared to the same time period, fiscal year 2021. According to HHS, just think of this as definitely not a well estimated figure, because we know that there are getaways, but it says here that there were 10,236 unaccompanied migrant children in federal custody awaiting transfer to relatives or sponsors within the United States. On average, 335 unaccompanied minor children are apprehended each day over the last 30 days. In the fiscal year of 2021, more than 146,000 unaccompanied migrant children were taken into custody after crossing the southwest border and ultimately released in the United States. Think about that. 146,000 unaccompanied children. Wait, was that? They said 10,000 unaccompanied, 146,000 unaccompanied migrant children. Of the 146,000 unaccompanied migrant children, remember what Axios reported last year. About 40% of these children can no longer be contacted again, right? I don't know personally what the updated figure is today, but this is insane. Okay, yeah, there are these figures, but many, if not more than half, cannot be contacted again. So think about that. They're refunneling them back to the HHS, which we all know. Again, we just read about a system, right? I know that it was a different system. It was the CPS, protective systems. I know, but still, it goes to show that in holistic fashion, the entire system is broken, and it is definitely not helping these kids, right? So we should have a lot to be concerned about. All right, this next story is coming from 9news.com. A postmaster is arrested on child exploitation charges. Chad Miller, 45, is accused of having sexual conversations with someone he believed was a 13-year-old girl, according to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. A postmaster with the U.S. Postal Service faces felony charges after he expressed interest in having sex with the person he thought was 13 years old. The girl was communicating with the girl he was communicating online with was actually a member of the CHISO unit, Special Investigations Unit with JCSO. Chad Miller, 45, was arrested following an investigation that began in August of 2021 when Miller initiated communication with a member of the CHISO unit, according to JCSO at that time. Miller expressed sexual interest in the girl, but eventually stopped communicating and never set a date to meet, JCSO said. Between March 9th and March 30th this year, Miller again initiated communication with an investigator who was posing as a 13-year-old girl. During the course of their internet communication, Miller disclosed that he was a postmaster, the sheriff's office said. The agency also reported that Miller engaged in detailed sexual communications with the person he believed was a juvenile. At one point, asked for live pictures to verify that the girl was real. That the girl was real. Jeffco investigators contacted Miller at the point of office in Elizabeth and arrested him for 2 counts of internet sexual exploitation of a child and sexual exploitation. What I don't understand. Internet sexual exploitation of a child and sexual exploitation of a child. So I guess it's like internet exploitation as well as physical exploitation. So again, I'm telling you, like, these people come in all different shapes, sizes, professions, everything. Postmaster, army, army soldier, retired judge. I mean, all of them. It don't matter. I report all of it. Okay, this is coming from leadertelegram.com. Ladysmith teacher, again, comes in all shapes and sizes, all walks of life. A teacher gets 20 years of prison for producing child porn. A former Ladysmith high school teacher will spend 20 years in federal prison for producing and possessing child pornography. Mackenzie W. Johnson, 35, of Ladysmith, was recently sentenced in federal court in Madison by U.S. District Judge William Conley. Conley ordered Johnson to spend 20 years on supervised release following his prison term. Johnson was arrested in late August for suspected possession of child pornography and sexual exploitation of a child. After authorities executed a search warrant at his residence, Johnson was taken into custody at Ladysmith High School and booked into Rusk County Jail. Johnson immediately resigned as a teacher at the high school. Authorities said that there were no known local victims. According to court records, March 2021, the mother of a 13-year-old girl in California called law enforcement reporting that she discovered explicit messages between her daughter and a man later identified as Johnson. During the search warrant executed at Johnson's residence, authorities found numerous images and videos he recorded of live streams of the 13-year-old engaging in sexually explicit conduct. Authorities also found a video Johnson recorded of a live stream of an 11-year-old in which Johnson instructs her to engage in sexual conduct so he can get a better view. Johnson was teaching at Ladysmith High School at the time he was committing these crimes. At sentencing, Conley said that Johnson led a dual life with his friends and family who had no idea he was preying on young girls. Conley said Johnson was bright but manipulative and willing to engage in horrendous behavior with young girls. Conley said he was concerned Johnson left his job at a hospital to become a teacher of students at the same age he was attracted to. The judge said Johnson teaching children was an alcoholic going to the bar. Exactly. The charges against Johnson were as a result as an investigation by the Department of the Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation, Ladysmith Police Department, Rusk County Sheriff's Office, Clark County Sheriff's Office, and the Ladysmith School District and Fontana, California Police Department. Teacher. Yep, that's right. That's insane. All right, this next story. I'm telling you, like, this doesn't get easier. It doesn't get lesser. Like, it's one intense story after the other. Like, this is not, it doesn't stop, guys. Like, there's so much out there. Like, I can't even get my entire podcast wrapped around all the stories. You understand how severe this is? It's one severe story after the other. A Waynesboro man allegedly distributed 50,000 child porn files. This is coming from WJBF. A Waynesboro man is facing charges related to the distribution of child pornography. On Tuesday, the Burke County Criminal Investigation Division and the GBI conducted a search warrant at a home on the 200 block of East 7th Street in Waynesboro. During the search, multiple devices were seized from the home. Investigators arrested Jason Bonds Connolly as a result of the search. Connolly is charged with 14 counts of distribution of child pornography and 2 counts of possession of child pornography. Investigators believe Connolly distributed over 50,000 files. 50,000 files potentially related to child pornography and abuse. More charges can be brought as the investigation continues. This was a joint operation between multiple agencies based on information gathered by GBI, Child Exploitation, and Computer Crimes Units. 50,000. 50,000 files, guys. My gosh. One person? All right. This next story, again, very sad that this is also involving young adults that do this to children because they are throwing their life away. Police said, this is coming from Fox 61, that a student was taking a child talking to the child, while in Georgia and allegedly sexually assaulted them before heading back to Connecticut for school. An Eastern Connecticut State University student, which is acronym ECSU, is facing numerous charges after a child exploitation investigation in Georgia, officials said Friday. Officials said that 22-year-old Victor Pastor was arrested Wednesday at the university campus by Georgia law enforcement and ECSU campus police. I mean, again, just the severity of this. You are a college student. Your life is just beginning, really. You know, you're on your route to become educated in a very specific field, and then you trash your life like this. Not just trash your life, the intent you have behind children. It's sad, and again, this is just a reflection of our perverse society, and you see this a lot with the agendas that you guys see very intense right now in the mainstream. You know what I mean? Like the children's education, we're protecting them because we want to teach them about sexuality. It's like, no, these are kids, right? So this is part of culture. We're over here sexualizing these children. We got certain people fighting for Ketanji Brown to be sworn in, and oh, it's not that bad. Yes, it is that bad. Yes, it is that bad, right? Like, don't sugarcoat it. It's bad, right? So you have enablers like that in the highest court of the land, and then you have a whole culture that's trying to push this agenda on kids. So then we wonder, oh my gosh, these offenders get younger and younger and younger and younger. Why? Well, tell me why y'all are trying to change culture in such a way where it's enabling this very thin line towards children. This is essentially what they're creating, this very thin line. It's intentional. I'm telling you, it's intentional. So on the same day, officials determined that Pastor's involvement arrest warrants were obtained by investigators, but that they tried to find Pastor. They learned that he had returned to Connecticut for college. Pastor was charged with aggravated child molestation, computer pornography, and child exploitation, obscene internet contact with the child, electronically furnishing obscene material to minors, and enticing a child. Pastor was booked at the Willimantic City Jail, where he's currently being held awaiting extradition to Georgia.
Tonight, a Connecticut music teacher is under arrest, accused of having sexual relationships with his students.
Oh, this is another one. This is another one. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. This is another one. This was a surprise. I did not find this intentionally. This just popped up on the feed. But this is another one by the same news agency, Fox 61. Different story.
Tonight, a Connecticut music teacher is under arrest, accused of having sexual relationships with his students. Police say that this investigation stems from a case that was opened several months ago. Fox 61's Carmen Chow joining us live in Wallingford tonight to explain the new details from police. Carmen.
And Jed, this is a case that Wallingford police are calling very disturbing. They are investigating a case that allegedly took place here in Wallingford and another case that allegedly took place in Portland.
Today we are having events here at the Historical Society, live mariachi music.
This was Adam Romo speaking to Fox 61 in 2019 for a Day of the Dead celebration, as he was the executive director of the Mariachi Academy of New England. According to the Spanish community of Wallingford, also known as SCOW, Romo was a volunteer for a brief period in 2016. Their partnership at one point ended, and they say Romo started his own nonprofit organization. But just recently, they learned about the sexual relationship Romo had with one of his 15-year-old students in Wallingford. And that is when police arrested the 36-year-old 2 weeks ago. In a statement, they said in part, quote, "We were recently made aware that an incident occurred between Mr. Romo and one of his students. We immediately contacted the Wallingford Police Department to report the incident." Romo has been charged with 6 counts of risk of injury to a minor and 4 counts of sex assault. Wallingford police explaining Romo was allegedly involved with another student in Portland, where police there are investigating their own case.
During the course of our investigation, it came to light that there were other students who had similar scenarios. However, either they don't want to press charges, they don't want to be involved, or they're going to be investigated by other agencies.
This was not the first time Romo allegedly practiced inappropriate behavior towards the students. According to public records out of Clark County, Nevada, where police say Romo is originally from, he was found guilty in 2011 for a similar crime.
I do know that over the past couple of years, I believe a lot of the training sessions happened at students' homes.
The news coming as a shock, knowing Romo was a well-known figure in the mariachi community.
Obviously, when you drop your children off,
My bad.
off to learn how to play a musical instrument, you don't expect something like this to happen. So it's definitely shocking to the conscience.
Romo is out on bond and is due back in court on Friday. I'm live in Wallingford. Carmen Chow.
I mean, this is I imagine, like, I can't even cover all of these stories. I just pop up with another story in the same news source. I'm just going through your comments here. Sandra saying kids don't need to know, let them be kids. Absolutely. Like, children need to just be children. Why do they need to know about, sexual nature? Like, you would think, this is just my opinion about it, but like, you would think the science behind the frontal lobe cortex and their developmental stage being so impressionable, being so important, that they would absorb the first fundamentals before learning about sexuality, which is essentially elementary, right? And it's reading, sounding out your words, writing. They don't even want to teach them cursive anymore. I mean, there's so many facets to basic fundamentals. Why would they have the capacity to learn about sexuality like this? I love what Loved God Bible Truth says. Pornography for kids and up. People need to stop defending degeneracy. I totally agree. And here, like, y'all see me night by night. I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. If they're doing this stuff, like, you're going to get called out on it. I don't care what spectrum anybody comes from, right? So it's like, this is not a political issue. This is right and wrong. You don't sexualize children. It's plain and simple. Why are people fighting for this, right? I 100% agree with this. Love God Bible Truth says. Andy G says all these pedophile criminals, and they want to push people like Ketanji Brown Jackson behind the bench, giving them a slap on the wrist. Exactly. I mean, imagine. And look, I don't know the intricacies of Supreme Court and what gets presented on their desk, but imagine something as big as this, and then you got somebody who is enabling that side, saying, "Oh, it's fine, it's okay, like, you just get 3 months." Buffering says only good thing is that they're arresting a massive amount. It just depends on what what the justice system is imposing for them to get reprimanded in what they're doing. Whew. All right. So, man, I didn't expect that next story, but it just came up. The next one coming from justice.gov, and this is in the state of Georgia. A Macon man who victimized a child and assumed her social media identity to distribute child pornography is convicted in Project Safe Childhood case. A Macon resident in Georgia who has assumed the social media identity of a 12-year-old girl using threats and then forced the victim to produce child sexual abuse material that he sold online is facing a maximum of 30 years of federal imprisonment for his crime. Anthony Sparks Brown, 27, of Macon, pleaded guilty to production of child pornography before U.S. District Judge Tillman E. Tripp Self the third on Thursday, March 31st. Brown faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years, a maximum of 30 years of imprisonment, a maximum $250,000 fine, and a maximum lifetime of supervised release. Brown will also have to register as a sex offender for life upon release from prison. Sentencing is scheduled for July 12th. There is no parole in federal system. The facts in this case are terrible, but sadly all too common. The epidemic of child sexual exploitation online is such as that parents must empower themselves and their children with information to take the necessary proactive measures to protect them from online predators, said U.S. Attorney Peter D. Leary. Federal, state, and local law enforcement resources are being engaged to track down to stop cyber child.
Connecticut State University student faces numerous charges.
Yikes! Sorry about that. Around the clock. So Brown had met the real Jane Doe. Let's go to the very beginning. According to court documents, the GBI received a cyber tip from NCMC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, on January 2019. Based on a report originating from Facebook detailing child sexual abuse material communicated between two Facebook users, a middle school aged female, Jane Doe 1, and a 57-year-old man, an ensuing investigation ultimately revealed that Brown was using the Jane Doe 1 account to possess, distribute, and sell child sexual abuse material. Brown had met the real Jane Doe #1, a 12-year-old girl from Tennessee, on Instagram in 2018. Brown told investigators that she sent him nude images. Later, Brown threatened the 12-year-old on Facebook using an alias, sending her these images and other sexually explicit photos and stating that he was sure that she didn't want her parents to see the images. Brown then proposed that they make a deal whereby, in exchange for Jane Doe #1 Facebook login information, Brown would refrain from sending out the explicit photos. So blackmail of a child. Jane Doe #1 complied and sent her credentials to Brown. The same day, Brown began soliciting sexual images and videos from a girl using threats. Brown was taken into custody July 9th, 2019, at his residence at the In-Town Suites Hotel in Macon, Georgia, where he was employed. Brown admitted that he threatened the girl in order to receive her Facebook passwords and assumed her identity on Facebook, chatting with her friends and family on that platform. He further admitted to using threats to coerce more sexually exploitive images and videos from her, distributing those images and selling some of the images to her uncle. To her uncle. That is a plot twist. Ah. What in the world? To her uncle? This is insane. So he solicited images and videos from here and there. I mean, many different ways, tricking the girl to give him the password to her Instagram so that way he could go and pose as her, and then seeked other child victims through her account. Let me read this part again. He further admitted to using threats to coerce more sexually exploitive images and videos from her, distributing those images and selling some of the images to her uncle. I mean, it ends with that. There's no more to that. It's increasingly sick. Man. Next story, still from justice.gov. Okay, Harford County felon pleads guilty to sexual exploitation of a child to produce child pornography and illegally possessing of a firearm and ammunition. Travis Joseph Crawford, age 34, of Edgewood, Maryland, pleaded guilty today to sexual exploitation of a child to produce child pornography and to being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. The guilty plea was announced by the United States Attorney for the District of Maryland, Eric L. Barron. Special Agent in Charge James R. Mancuso of Homeland Security Investigations, Baltimore, Special Agent in Charge Tony M. Crosby, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, continued on. According to Crawford's plea agreement and other court documents, on November 30th, 2020, Harford County Sheriff's deputies went to Crawford's residence based on a warrant issued for Crawford by Maryland State Police for firearm-related offenses. When the officers arrived, they heard Crawford call, "Where's my gun?" Crawford was arrested and law enforcement recovered an Apple iPhone 7, an Apple Watch, and fully loaded .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol. A search warrant subsequently executed on Crawford's phone revealed 3 sexually explicit videos involving Jane Doe, all of which were recorded without her knowledge or permission. Specifically, on 2 occasions, July 2020, when Jane Doe was 12 years old, Crawford produced videos of Crawford's hand touching Jane Doe's buttocks and genitals over her shorts while Jane Doe slept. On November 29, 2020, when Jane Doe was 13 years old, Crawford hid his iPhone under the sink in a bathroom used by Jane Doe and recorded video of Jane Doe in the bathroom undressing and getting into and out of the shower. Crawford was previously convicted of a felony and therefore was prohibited from possessing a firearm or ammunition. As a result of his guilty plea upon his release from prison, Crawford will be required to register as a sex offender in the places where he resides, where he is an employee, and where he is a student under the Sex Offender Registration Notification Act. Sick and sick and sick and sick and sick and sick. And what is this one? Let's end with this one. All right, so we're going to end with this one. A SWAT situation is underway in Antioch, connected to human trafficking operation. And this is in Tennessee. So this is really fresh. This is really new. You guys are hearing it right now. But there's a SWAT operation going on or is wrapping up as we speak. This is coming from WKRN. Special operations incidents are underway at the business south of downtown Nashville and at a home in Antioch Thursday morning, connected to a months-long sex trafficking investigation. Okay, so it's over. It was actually yesterday. My apologies. Tactical officers, along with Metro Police, are on the scene of a business of 600 block of Fessler's Lane, in addition to a home in Blue Willow Court. Metro Police spokesperson Dawn Aaron said a grand jury indictment led to the tactical officers serving warrants at both of the businesses and the home Thursday morning. Multiple people were taken into custody at the home, but no one was found at the Fessler's Lane business. A months-long human trafficking investigation resulted in simultaneous execution of 2 search warrants for trafficking women for the purposes of prostitution in the Nashville area. Metro Police is withholding names until some suspects are in custody. Aaron said the department is not clear who exactly was taken into custody in Antioch, but at least one of these people was being served, is a violent felon who may not be in custody right now. Metro Police is still working to make arrests and clear the home in Antioch. The Fessler's Lane location was a makeshift recording studio that also sold merchandise. The police department does have the human trafficking component, and this is an investigation that has been going on for months. This did not occur overnight or yesterday. This has been going on for months, said Aaron. And right now, there is no additional information that has been released. Oh, man. I'm telling you, like, you think that we're just getting through these stories? There's so many more that I can't even, like, look, we're already hitting an hour. Like, we can't even cover all of them, but listen to each hard-hitting story, one after another, after another, after another. It's insane. But again, nobody's talking about this. But because this involves every walk of life, it's important to talk about it every night. So let me take a look at your comments before we sign off here. Philly says we need cameras in the classrooms. I agree. Like, it's getting to the point now where it's like, dude, are y'all offenders too for classroom children? Like, why are you trying to sexualize them so fast? Vince says, good to see you on Red Pill Project again. Keep up the good work, Natalie. You rock. Thank you so much for that, Vince. I really appreciate that comment. Always great to collaborate with other creators. I was on the Red Pill Project. Once the link is available and sent to me, guys, I will post it on my social media. You guys can find me on Twitter, Truth Social, Instagram especially. So once that link comes to me, I will share it with my audience. So thank you so much for that, Vince. I appreciate it. And Red Pill Project is a podcast and information platform. Buffering says they have got several here in Tennessee this week. Good. I'm glad that they have a lot of arrests. So with that being said, guys, I hope you all have a great weekend. I really appreciate you. If I go silent on social media for the next few days, please know that I am producing the Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell intro documentary. It's a 3-part series. The first part is set to debut very, very soon in the coming weeks, 2 weeks max. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for your support. I will catch you guys in the next podcast. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, your family, and be safe. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Unravel with Natalie Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.